Welcome back, and joining me now is Democratic Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, the author of the new book, The First Eight, a personal history of the pioneering black congressman who shaped a nation. Congressman Clyburn, welcome back to Meet the Press. Congratulations on the new book.
Well, thank you very much for having me back.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll get to your book in just a moment, but let's start with this big Supreme Court ruling this week that basically allows Texas to use a redrawn congressional map, which is favorable to Republicans. Democrats have been responding to efforts in Texas and other states in kind, with blue states like California trying to add additional Democratic seats. But some in your party, including your friend, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, are warning against this tit-for-tat response. Here's what he said, Congressman. He said, if you fight fire with fire long enough, all you're going to have left is ashes. What do you say to Congressman Cleaver and others like him who fear that this tit-for-tat response could ultimately undermine the democratic norms of this country?
I agree with him entirely. The fact of the matter is, we are seeing today, and this is so much of what the first eight is all about, a repeat of a history that led to some catastrophic consequences in our previous history. My book is all about what happened after the Civil War, what happened when Reconstruction came to an end that led to Jim Crow, and is all about the Supreme Court at that time, starting with the slaughterhouse cases, all the way up to Plessy versus Ferguson, made a mockery of democracy. And that is what we are approaching today. Are we going to continue our pursuit of a more perfect union, or are we going to make a mockery out of this democracy?
Well, and in your book, The First Eight, I have it here with me. I want to talk a little bit more about what you write. You write that your rise in politics was made possible thanks to three landmark laws. Here's your quote. You say, the hard-won successes of the movements I have served in, the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and the 1968 Fair Housing Act provided the faith and promise that I could one day serve in public office. You are currently the only Democrat representing South Carolina. Your district was created as a result of the Voting Rights Act. Congressman, let me ask you, if the Supreme Court rules to further weaken the Voting Rights Act, would that effectively wipe out Democratic representation in your state for the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. When I used to teach history down in Charleston, South Carolina, I used to say to my students all the time, anything that's happened before can happen again. And this is exactly what happened before. This first eight is about the first 8 African Americans that served in Congress from South Carolina. I'm the 9th. The problem is there are 95 years between number 8 and number 9. And I believe that what we are approaching with this Supreme Court could very well result in the next century being one that will repeat that which took place in the previous century in 1877.
Well, those are pretty stark words. And let me kind of push this conversation forward a little bit and have you respond to some of the rhetoric, at least, that we are hearing. This week, President Trump referred to people in the Somalian community as quote unquote garbage, even singling out Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. This, of course, a part of his broader crackdown on illegal immigration. But what do you make of the rhetoric that we heard this week from President Trump?
It is incredible. And of course, once again, it is not new. The number 7th guy on this list of 8, Thomas Miller, was referred to as a canary. Number 8 on that list, George Washington Murray, was nicknamed the Black Crow. This kind of nicknaming that took place after the Civil War, trying to discredit people of color, is exactly what we're seeing now. When people see all these nicknames denigrating people, devaluing their existence, that is not the kind of stuff of which our country has been made. We got over that after the 1954 Supreme Court decision. Why should we start back in that direction? And so when you look at the Somalians out in Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, she is one incredible young lady who has withstood a lot in her life, and I have defended her and her Somalian brethren, and I do believe that's what this country is all about. It is what made us a great country. And what we've got to do is continue that trek toward a more perfect union. We'll never be perfect, but we should always be in pursuit of perfection. And we don't do that by turning back the clock and having a future for our children and grandchildren, much like the past was for my parents and grandparents. That's not the American way.
Let me ask you about the Democratic Party now. Former Vice President Harris has said sexism and racism played a major role in her defeat back in 2024. In remarks last month, former First Lady Michelle Obama said something really interesting. I want to play it for you and get your reaction on the other side. Take a look.
As we saw in this past election, sadly, we ain't ready. That's why I'm like, don't even look at me about running, because you all are lying. You're not ready for a woman.
Congressman, do you think that America is ready to elect a woman president, or do you agree with the former First Lady?
Well, history is prologue, and I understand exactly what Kamala Harris is saying. I had a very pleasant conversation with her last week. Michelle Obama is absolutely correct. If you look at the history, we demonstrated that we were not ready. These are incredible women who have run: Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and I think that we are getting there. That's why we can't afford to turn the clock back. We're taking 1, 2, and 3 steps forward. Let's not take 2, 3, and 4 steps backwards, which is what we're doing in these elections. So just because it doesn't seem that we are ready doesn't mean we should stop the pursuit. It's never. My dad used to tell me all the time, son, the darkest point of the night is that moment just before dawn. And so we may be in a dark moment as it relates to women serving as president, but we may be in that moment just before dawn when a woman will serve. And in order for that to happen, they've got to run. So I want women to run. I'm going to support them. I'm the father of 3 fantastic women. I want them to keep their pursuit and not give up on this country.
All right. Congressman Clyburn, thank you so much. We always appreciate having you.
Thank you very much for having me.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.